Hello, welcome back to another episode. And I'm excited for this conversation. I'm bringing David Camacho back to the table for a couple reasons because Dave and I, we talk every day and what we're seeing in this business landscape. And David is one of the most in tune and in touch with the business landscape because he's speaking to hundreds of executives every week. So, he's able to see who's winning, who's not, and who's really kind of stuck in overwhelm and fear. So we're seeing so many people just get stagnant with their career and their progress. So really wanted to have this conversation and bring our executive strategic advisor here, David, to the table to share his insight. David, thank you for coming to the show.
Absolutely. It's always great to talk about this so that we can get people into action, as you said it, and really move past their fear.
So fear is everywhere right now, right? So many industries getting disrupted. People are freaking out with AI coming. There's been changes in political landscapes and things are just getting really chaotic. So what do you think is really the main source of fear that you're seeing just with everyone you're speaking to right now?
I think a lot of people look at their career, most of the people that I talk to on paper and in their life, they've been very, very successful, highly credentialed. They have 10 plus years, sometimes 20, 25 years of experience and are in executive positions or at least senior manager roles. And now for the first time, they're having this shock to the system because now their skills feel less in demand. They're not getting interviews. They're not getting job offers. It's taking them 6 months, 12 months, 2 and 3 years now. And what I am finding is that, first of all of them are qualified for the opportunities that they're looking for as their next step, even if it's just lateral. And the biggest challenge for them, I see a few common themes. Everybody's in this getting ready to get ready, or the definition of insanity. They're doing the same thing over and over again because, hey, it worked in the past. It must work today. And as you said, AI and other technological advances with commerce, business models, products and services has disrupted everything. And while I don't look at AI as some type of destructive monster taking away opportunity from people, I really look at it as a tool. Um, you can't ignore that it's been disruptive. And so people are really looking at, where am I supposed to be next? What do I align with? And how am I going to get there? Because what I'm doing right now isn't working. And what happens is, through this experience, people are getting rejected for the first time in their career. And it's happening day in and day out. And because of that, now they're starting to question their value. And so they get in this fear mode where they don't take action, or they'll just continue to take the same action because they're hoping that somehow they'll get a different result, which I think scientifically is not even possible. Right. So they get in this, what do I do now? I need to get ready to get ready. And one of the other challenges I see is that when you're challenged by something, you look to your peers who are in the same boat, and they don't know how to overcome getting back into their success, their career path, having a job and generating income. And so it's kind of, I lightheartedly say, it's like that Spider-Man meme where everybody's pointing at each other is like, do you have the answer? Do you have the answer? Do you have a job? Can I have a job? Do you have a job? And nobody seems to have the answer. And what I notice about all of them is that they get stuck in patterns of fear. They focus on things that make them feel productive, but that aren't producing results. And so where do they go from there next? And I'm curious to know your perspective on that because you see it too.
And this is the harsh truth that we're here to share because we don't want to just tell people what they want to hear, right? We're here to get people prepared to win. And it's one of these markets where you have to change, adapt, or die. And there's people that have been coasting in their career. They've never had to really own their brand. They haven't had to market it. They've kind of had opportunities maybe fall in their lap. Maybe they've always been recruited or, it was just always easy. And now they're finding themselves really having to compete and having to fight for exposure and attention and relevance. And it's scary because this is a first for them. And so when you see that, it's just, people get kind of like a deer in headlights where they're like, well, I just need to figure it out because they don't have that clarity and they don't have the certainty, right? So the getting ready to get ready is really, I think, overwhelm and people just get stuck and they don't even know where to start because they've never been in this position before. And when you find yourself there, you usually want to hide because you don't really want to be seen vulnerable, right? The last thing you want to do is go tell everybody you're in this situation.
Right. There is, as I think you're implying, there's a lot of shame in struggle, and
So
that is something that's very hard for people who have, generally speaking, always had some level of success, or at least always been able to be employed. And again, the people who I'm talking to in the job market, I speak to about 1,000 people or more a month, just me individually. All of them are trying to figure out, how the heck am I not even able to have a job? And it's even you even have more shame, I think, when you have to ask someone for help. And it's very hard for people to get out of that mindset. And what else I notice about this too, you're talking about the getting there ready to get ready. People start rationalizing their fear and making excuses for it. Well, I just need to do this one more thing. And again, it just comes down to people thinking that they're being productive. I need to update my resume one more time. I need to update my LinkedIn profile one more time. I need to apply to one more job thinking I'm going to get a different result. Well, logistically, there's too many people who are unemployed and employed and coming out of retirement who are all vying for the same job opportunities. So logistically, it's very challenging to be seen, right? And so even as technology advances and makes it easier for people to spam the internet and job boards, human connection becomes very, very important, because at the end of the day, people hire people. They don't hire PDFs. They don't hire LinkedIn profiles. It's the same as a job description. Just a compliance document. It's just a representation of a single dimension of your career or the trajectory you're on before, but not necessarily today, not necessarily where you want to be in your next role. And so people really need to make human connection, especially as technology advances. It actually becomes more valuable, not less valuable. And so because there's this shame of, I don't even want to call it failure. It's just where we're at, right? People are upsizing, resizing the company, restructuring, and they're really just trying to find how to get into the next opportunity. But because they can't move past this fear, sometimes they're afraid to ask for help. Sometimes they're afraid to be vulnerable. Sometimes just, they can't get the focus. So what I notice is that the people who are successful, I had a mentor tell me earlier in my career, he said, look, there's no such thing as job stability. And he was telling me about the many jobs that he had in the course of his career when he had made six figures, $500,000 or more, and then, his pay changed over time. He said that one of the things that he learned was creating the demand for his skill set and always being relevant in that way. And that's how you stay employable, by creating value and demand for your skills, not applying to multiple jobs. In fact, his advice had nothing to do with applying to jobs. And because of the way the job market has changed, it used to be that people would have a career, maybe one or two jobs. And some folks never change jobs. I talked to people, executives or senior managers just this week. Handful of them had been at their companies for 20 plus years. And now they're in the job market for the first time. And now they don't know how to create value or demand for their skill set in an oversaturated market. So loyalty is gone out the window. It doesn't exist on employee side or employer side. Things change too quickly these days. The way for people to advance, and frankly for companies to advance too, is to always have up-leveled or refreshed talent to a degree. Now that can come from finding new talent externally, but you pay a premium for it, or you invest in people. But either way, you have to create demand. And so getting to that place, though, is very hard for people who have now been rejected so much that they're in fear and they don't see the value in their own skill sets, which makes it very hard for them to show up and sell and represent the value.
there's so much to unpack that you said there. And I want to cut into the part about authentic connection and creating value and demand. I want to relate this to what we do for a second, just because from a business perspective, it's a little bit different. But when I look at how to create demand, there's a few ways, right? Outreach, emails, phone calls, advertising. There's not, everybody overcomplicates business and demand gen. There's only four categories and ways to do it. We do it through advertising. And I know you and I both watch all of the ads in our space. So it's always a lot of fun to kind of see and compare, like, how do you stand out? It's so competitive. So many people do what we do. And time again, I've had people come to me and say, I watch all the people doing your ads, and it was something about your communication just felt authentic and genuine, whereas the others felt phony and performative. And I think that that's why I want to talk about energy and intention. This is what AI cannot do. And it's something we really focus on at Career Evolve. And when I think about the intention of any advertising or outreach I'm doing, it's to connect and add value and also educate. Here's what I do. Here's where I add value, right? Here's how I can help. But here's what you need. Here's what I'm seeing. So there's value there, even with the advertisement. And I noticed there's not very many advertisers that are really trying to add value, regardless of with their messaging. It's all about click here, buy now. You know what I mean? Sign up now. And so I think when I've taken that approach in my career, whether it's giving out 100 books for free, right? I just go and I buy a box of books, and I don't worry about making money. I'm worried about delivering value and getting this information out and helping people. And then a good chunk of those people turn into clients. So this is something you and I are big on, but I want to talk about when you're in a fear, fight, or flight state, you aren't giving value because you can't even see yourself as valuable. So how do you get out of this fight or flight scarcity of I need a job, I need a job, I need opportunity, there's not enough, there's too much competition, to abundance like we're thinking and giving value with no expectation and knowing it's going to work out, right? It's a mindset.
It is, and I think that I mean, I meet a lot of people who um, don't know how to get into that place where they change the overwhelming narrative of loss, rejection, not having success, and that becomes their truth or their reality for the moment, or the past couple of years, whatever it might be. And this is actually something I share with my son. When you're winning or when you feel like you're losing or you're not where you're at, you always have to practice gratitude. People don't talk about this as a tactic of success, but it absolutely is. You have to change the narrative in your own mind. And what I see every single person I talk to, even the ones who have a little bit more confidence about their skill sets and the value, they're leaving their value up to interpretation, to external forces, whether it's the people they're interviewing with, the companies they're approaching. And so when they reach out to them, they don't know how to be relevant because to them in their own mind, they're not relevant. They don't see it themselves. And it's very hard to do to get out of that tunnel vision. But what I will say is that when you can start with saying, "Hey, look, I have everything I need to succeed." You and I talk about this a lot.
Mhm.
I have everything I need to succeed. Now, let me find the people who I align with who need those skill sets and that experience that I bring over the course of my career or my life. Let me go find those people and get in a conversation with them. And getting that place is very hard, but you first have to be thankful, I believe, at your core. And you have to change the narrative of your belief about yourself, especially if you're in this place of, I feel like I'm constantly losing, or I feel like I'm ashamed. I feel like I can't provide for my family. All these things that people are going through right now, that they shouldn't, because it's not just happening to them, it's happening to millions of people. And it's actually underreported. But you gotta start there first because you can't leave your value up to interpretation of somebody else just because they reject you. It might just mean that you're not aligned. It might mean that you couldn't break through because there's thousands of resumes, right? So one of the things that people are really challenged by is reaching out to others and to find out who truly aligns with them and qualifying them to make sure that they align with the work they want to do, the values, the next step of their career. And this is something I like to reframe for people. You're not doing cold outreach. You're not doing a cold call. You're trying to find the people you align with and you're reaching out to be relevant. And so you're talking about demand generation and marketing and the things that you're able to do professionally, the services that you offer. It's the same thing with an individual and their skill sets and their experience. Somebody out there needs it. You need to find who it is. but you have to have the focus and say, okay, who is that person? Who is that business? What does that team look like? Who would I be leading? Who would I be a cross functional partner with? And then know that with intention, you're reaching out to somebody in a relevant way. And that's when you say what you said, which is, hey, look, I help people achieve X, Y, and Z. Let's have a conversation, and then get them into a call to action. I mean, these are marketing strategies, but you can't market anything successfully, not a product or service or your skill set, without knowing who your market is. And that gets you out of this position of saying like, "Oh, I'm ashamed. I feel like I'm asking for help. I'm in need," and it's a cold outreach, and I don't really know if anybody wants to talk to me. Do I deserve to be in the room with these people? Well, no. If you believe it, then you do. If you don't, then you're right. Either way, you're right. You just have to make this choice. It is a belief, and then you become relevant. But you have to focus on, this is my belief. Gratitude, you have everything you need to succeed. Putting your attention and energy to align with those who are the next step for you in your career or your life, and then going after them in a relevant way, because it's not cold outreach or relevant. It is relevant to you and where you want to be as the next step. But you first have to do that discovery with yourself. And I think that's where we get into this ready to get ready aspect where people feel productive, but they're not actually taking action. And that's really, I think, aside from the identity of belief in yourself, I think the next step is the actually taking of action and being okay with failure, because all you can do is win or make incremental progress towards your goal.
There's so much gold there, and I think I just wanna call out a couple buckets of fear that I know you and I both see, but they all fit in one of 3 buckets for high performers. It's keeping them from that next breakthrough, and it's fear of failure. So fear of trying and not doing it and feeling like a loser, right? And then fear of judgment. What are they gonna say? What are they gonna think of me? And then there's fear of not enough, fear that you're not worthy, right? And so all 3 of those are what I see very highly intelligent, capable, talented, high performing people reach these upper limits because they don't put the activity in, because they're deep down paralyzed with fear, but they have very sophisticated ways of rationalizing that fear, right? And it's like that's what we call the getting ready to get ready, but it's really the perfectionism trap and the overthinking trap, and it's really fear, and that's what steals more dreams, more growth opportunities than anything here, because people get really addicted to their stories that reinforce that fear.
Yeah. I heard something recently, and we've definitely talked about this. I even talked about this with family members, that if you look for the evidence of your success or your failure or your struggle or your wins and your fulfillment, you will always find evidence of it. But it's, what are you spending your mental energy and time on? And if it's the latter, meaning the failure, the struggle, the shame, yeah, you'll find all the reasons to stay stuck there. And I also want to highlight something too. We're speaking in a way that, it sounds theoretical. And hey, these are the things you should do because they're best, they are right and reasonable. What I what I want to highlight is that unless you know us personally, I mean me and I mean you don't necessarily know that we know these things because we've lived them. And I want to say something that maybe I don't know if you say out loud a whole lot to a bunch of people, but I'll say it out loud about myself. When you come from nothing, all you can do is go up. And there is a certain amount of grit to get you out of that sleepwalking state of your pain and your shame and your judgment of yourself or the judgment of others, and take action, even in the smallest way, incrementally to get to your goal. And I'll go one step further. Corporate America, as brutal and draining as it is not the hardest thing that you could experience in your life. You have to do more to succeed today. You just have to. There's no rationalizing it. There's no arguing with it. Everybody who is not employed right now or burnt out in their job and unhappy, but can't get another job right now, you have to do more. And sitting there and wallowing in your pain and suffering, give yourself a day, give yourself a moment, grieve the loss of whatever it is that you're not happy about in your career, but then take action, because nobody is going to hand that to you. And you have to have more grit and drive to get out of that state of maybe you were able to operate on prestige for the past decade or more. Maybe you were tapped on the shoulder for every job opportunity you've ever had. It's not happening right now. Who knows if that'll ever change or go back? But it does go back to this. And this is implied in what you're saying here with demand generation. Not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur and have the grit to do that, but you definitely today in this present market and maybe moving forward in the future, because this is where I see things going just in general, you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit, which does require you to do more, which does require you to have more grit and drive, even if it is to support another business in what you do and not necessarily start a business, but you definitely have to have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I actually believe, looking around and talking to executives today, that they are looking for that because they're expecting people to do more with less.
Yep.
Now, for you to create a better circumstance where that's not generating burnout for you also, you have to generate the demand for your skills so you can say, "Hey, look, I have other opportunities." It's not just, "Hey, I now believe in my value." It's, "I have other opportunities because I've done the work to generate demand for my skills. So this is the scope that I would like to do as the next step of my career or my life." Whether those are some work-life balance elements for it, or it's just the work that you want to focus on is more fulfilling, whatever it might be. I find that everybody in general is looking for alignment and purpose. And in the past 4 years, that's what we've come away with as a population. I want to do more purpose driven work. I want to be more aligned with the people I work with, the people I mentor or build up, or the companies that I build. And that's where I want to focus my time and energy. But in order to get that, you can't just say it. You have to be willing to do more than the next person. You have to have the grit. You got to get out of this sleepwalking state and work very hard for it to generate the demand that you can leverage to say, "This is my boundary. This is how I want to work. This is where I want to be next." If that's not going to be with your organization, that's okay. But I do have other opportunities, and just being detached from the rejection piece. And it takes a lot of belief to get to that place. But there's two things that I've noticed about successful people that we get to interact with. They believe in their mindset and they believe in their faith. And you can't shake either one of those things. And those are the people. If I were to take tactics out of everything, those are the two things that I see successful people have: belief, belief. Those two things and nothing else. Not degrees, not certifications, not a $500,000 salary. It's the stronger belief in themselves and their purpose.
And that's a really good place to end it because it's everything, right? And one thing I want to leave you with, if you've listened this far, if you're moving out of fear, you're moving through turbulence, you're moving through resistance, you're moving through a tough time, you need a vision that's bigger than your fear to pull you forward. Because if you're not, everyone knows what they're running away from right now, but they don't have that vision to pull them forward. And they're afraid to even allow themselves to dream because they've lost the belief that David just talked about. So, if you're looking to revitalize your career and get a vision that inspires you and an actual proven process to get there, I'd encourage you to book a call with us at Career Evolved. Go to www.careerevolve.com/schedule and go ahead, sign up. We'll get on you with Zoom for 1 hour and we're going to get to the truth on what's holding you back with your career. And it's not likely what you think it is. There's so many tentacles to these issues, and the root cause is typically mindset and thought patterns and belief systems because so many people have lost hope in this market. They're totally beaten down. And so half the battle is getting you back to that belief that and that conviction in your own value so that you have the energy for the next climb ahead. But thank you, David. This was a really good conversation and looking forward to more to come.
Thanks, Olivia.